I'm Matthis. It's nice to meet you. Let us work together and search for my dear Lena.
To cap off the amazing year of Book 6 Grand Hero Battle Units, we are ending on a not high note. However, before I explain why, the situation has changed in the past couple months, so I would not discourage anyone from using any new units. Matthis is our newest Grand Hero Battle unit, the last one before we head into Book 7. That doesn't mean much, but Book 6 was a huge redemption year after the very underwhelming selection during Book 5. Matthis, unfortunately, is just going to get dogpiled on for some very clear reasons. He is a Lance Cavalier with 41 HP, 43 attack, 32 speed, 38 defense, and 25 res. That stat spread should look very familiar, and Matthis has a res super boon. 43 base attack is very good for a Lance Cavalier, and 38 defense isn't bad either. However, like many Lance Cavs, Matthis has low resistance and is not terribly low, but you're going to need to buff it up a bit more. His 32 base speed is not outstanding either, but it can separate Matthis from his biggest competitor. For his weapon, Matthis brings the inheritable Vulture Lance Plus, 14 might, and if unit is not adjacent to an ally, inflict penalty on foes' attack and defense stats during combat equal to -5 plus any current penalty on each of those stats. Calculate each stat independently. So, Vulture Lance is not a new type of weapon, but we never got a Lance version of the Pelagian weapons. Big thing to note, you need to be solo for this weapon, and it inflicts a base -5 attack and defense on the foe. You then double any attack or defense debuffs in combat, and this can lead to some big stat advantages. If the foe has a -6 attack debuff, you inflict -5 attack in combat, and another -6 attack in combat as well. Altogether, that is -17 attack, which is very noticeable, and you can do the same for defense debuffs too. That's a lot of survivability and extra damage potential when it works, but A, you need those active attack and defense debuffs, and B, the foe can neutralize debuffs, which makes this weapon useless. I guess C, you also need to stay solo as well, so Vulture Lance does have some conditions you do need to be meeting. Generally speaking, it is a pure stat stick in the form of debuffs, and you'll typically need some kind of consistent debuffing source. For the rest of his base kit, Matthis actually has some rare stuff. Blazing Wind is not new, but it's a great area of effect special due to its simple plus-shaped range. Not really useful for Matthis himself though. For his B skill, you got Chill Attack and Defense 2, which inflicts -5 attack and defense on the foe with the highest attack plus defense total. Obviously this synergizes with the Vulture Lance, but you only get one target, and that could be anyone since you're adding attack and defense stats. For his C skill, you got Rouse Defense and Res 3. When starting the turn alone, you get +6 defense and res field buffs. Again, this works with the solo style of the Vulture weapon. Chill Attack and Defense 2 is not exactly high tier, but it's rare and it could lead into the eventual Chill Attack and Defense 3 whenever that comes out. Rouse Defense and Res 3 is also only on 5-star units, so a free-to-play option is great, and that can lead into the tier 4 in the future. Honestly, Matthis does bring some nice fodder with him, 2 relatively rare passive skills, and a brand new inheritable lance to use. For merging, the neutral nature will give Matthis +1 HP attack and defense. That's fine. You can go with the res super boon though if you wanted to try a more defensive build. The main reason Matthis is not being very hyped up is that he directly competes with Gerald, and things do not look very good here. Gerald is also a Gen 7 Lance Cavalier, same HP, same high attack, slightly more defense for Gerald, and Gerald trades speed for more resistance. You then got the Breaker Lance, which is a fantastic weapon for a heroic Grail unit. Matthis comes with Chill Attack and Defense 2. Well, Breaker Lance essentially has Chill Attack and Defense 3, meaning the debuff has a 2-space area of effect around the main target. In addition, Breaker Lance also inflicts panic on those same foes. Then in combat, Gerald inflicts -6 attack defense debuffs and gets a free follow-up attack. This is not a very complex weapon, but it has all the basic things you could ask for on a Lance Cavalier that's free. Matthis doesn't have access to a Seahorse Axe type Lance, and his base speed is not that much higher either. Without serious speed investment, Matthis also struggles to double consistently, and that basically makes Gerald and Breaker Lance much more enticing. Like I said, when we reviewed Gerald, he basically outclasses every other free-to-play slower Lance Cavalier. The Blade Breaker is not super OP, but he's got everything you could want out of a free unit. Despite all of that, I still think Matthis can have a place, and if you like the character himself, then I wouldn't get discouraged so fast. Now, compared to other Lance Cavaliers, Matthis is in a bit of a weird middle ground in terms of speed. He isn't as slow as Gerald, Orson, or Fernand, but he's also not as fast as Spring Luthier or Patrine. Since he has high attack and decent defense, this could open Matthis up to some speed skills, and then you can go with various combinations of attack, defense, or res. For example, compared to Luthier, Matthis could afford to not run as many attack boosters, and instead you can throw those points into defense or res. Additionally, you can follow the classic Lance Cavalier identity of just ignoring resistance entirely, just go for a faster physical damage fighter. In terms of demoted 3 to 4 star units, Rochea is kinda similar as a more recent addition. He has higher defense with some speed, and you can see how Matthis gets more points into attack and res thanks to the higher BST. A takeaway from these comparisons is that you could just take advantage of Matthis' high base attack for certain weapon types. We'll talk about specifics more in a bit. In terms of builds, we do have some budget options to pair with the Vulture Lance. We need Matthis to be solo, so solo Sacred Seals will pair just fine with the Rouse C skill. We also need attack and defense debuffs, and dual attack and defense does apply those onto one target. Another way to do this is with attack and defense snag 3 from Spring Luthier. You use a movement assist skill and you emit attack and defense debuffs on the nearest foe within 4 spaces. If someone were to push Matthis forward, then he can target the nearest debuff target. It's going to be tougher to use defensively as well though, since Vulture Lance requires you to be alone, so reposition or swap may not be as ideal. Another debuffing option is Threat and Attack and Defense 2. It only debuffs foes within 2 spaces, and that's not going to be easy to activate unless the foe is already moving. You could try Attack or Defense Smoke, but that's only for enemy phase fighting. Besides that, Matthis would appreciate some outside help in debuffing. For example, Gerald's Breaker Lance. For A skills, we have a couple budget catch 3 skills. Attack and defense or speed defense can work. You can also try speed and res solo from Urk, and I do think Matthis can afford to experiment with other speed based skills. The Vulture Lance ideally gives him a lot more bulk and damage, so you can supplement that with extra speed to actually double or not get doubled. For example, you can swap over to Rouse speed and defense from Ferdinand instead of the pure defense res variant. As for specials, while Matthis has high base attack to empower the AoE special, it's going to be tough to charge up without Heavy Blade. You could just instead swap to Bonfire or Draconic Aura instead. Now for premium skills for the Vulture Lance, just like any other Pelagian weapon, these work well with Menace C skills. Tag and Defense Menace gives Matthis those deals while buffing him up, and it works within the 4 space attack range of melee Cavaliers. As with before, you could try to focus on more speed boosters to actually score some follow-up attacks, and if you did want to focus on tankier targets, you could run a Flow Guard. Near Trace for console is fine too, and maybe you can borrow Harden's Surge Sparrow as well. If you can get some specials going, then that would give Matthis some longer term sustain. Now for other weapons, since it is still Ninja November, Matthis could be a decent Ninja Naginata user. This isn't the same as the Ninja Yari from Ninja Navarre, it's from 4-star focused Ninja Male Korin. You don't have to be the fastest unit to get the bonus true damage out of it, you just need to be faster than the enemy, and with his slightly higher base speed, Matthis might be able to use this to bust through some tanks. Into actual fast units, you still get the high attack Brave Lance, and that's fine as well. You could also try the new Seal Defense 4 with those brave attacks. If you wanted another solo weapon that doesn't need debuffing, you could instead use the Unbound Lance, aka the Flowing Lance. That gives it a low attack and defense basically. If you wanted to go for more speed, you can try Fila's Rain Lance. There are a lot of attack and defense based lances like Bridal Sunflower or Carrot Tip Spear. Since Christmas is coming up as well, maybe you can snag Winter Hilda's Candy Cane. Personally, I'm not a fan of pure defensive or enemy phase builds for Cavaliers, but we just got some Beastka options if that interests you. Quick Repose 4 gives damage reduction, and Mystic Boost comes with some attack buffs with the healing. You could also just go with the tried and true low B skills. Last thing I want to talk about, and the main reason you should use Matthis if you like him, is that eventually we will get an Arcane Lance. The Arcane weapons continue to just provide way more combative perks that can breathe some life into older units or just units without unique weapons. Melee Cavaliers also have some decent skill selections nowadays with multiple near trace contour options and multiple flow B skills to make those player phase initiations. They also have Catch 4, Clash 4 options, and the Tier 4 smokes aren't bad either. Unlike healers, there's at least a good bit more variety available. So, should you promote Matthis to 5 stars? Well, probably not. But let's summarize what he offers. He comes with pretty high base attack, decent defense, and a little bit of speed. You could spec more into res or speed, but you also need to commit to either one. As for skills, actually pretty good for a heroic option. Vulture Lance Plus is brand new and can be used in debuff heavy teams. Chill Attack and Defense 2 is not that amazing, but it gives us the path to the tier 3 dual chill once that comes out. Same applies to Rouse and Defense 3, although I think it's a bit more fun to use in the build since you can stack it with the Defense Res Solo Sacred Seal. At least, Matthis brings 3 relatively rare skills to inherit with them. As we've gone over in this video, Gerald is just generally better, especially if you're not willing to invest in speed for Matthis. Breaker Lance is a fantastic weapon, but it's not super insane for personal combat since part of its effects are support based. Personally, I do think there is a good chance the future Arcane Lance will be better than Breaker Lance for a unit's own combat. If it comes with a free follow-up attack, then it may even be more enticing than Breaker Lance, and Gerald himself might swap to it. The main advantage Gerald will have with the Breaker Lance is that it has the AoE debuffs and panic. I'm going to assume the future Arcane Lance probably won't provide those benefits. Generally speaking, in the past, Matthis would have been in a way worse spot. Gerald's in the same BST generation, he has a good unique weapon, and their stats are not that different. However, with arcane weapons coming into the scene, it's basically just gonna boil down to what stat spread a unit has, especially since you cannot use other unique passive skills with the arcane weapons. At the moment, Matthis doesn't have a ton going for him, but if you just like him as a character, then I think he could shine in the future. That'll be it for this video. Kind of a disappointing update if you're looking at the free-to-play friendly units, but at least Matthis is more interesting than the 2 healers. Let me know your thoughts on Matthis or if you plan to build him up. Thank you for watching, and I will see you next time.